Hi, my name is Jeff Woodard, and I'm a senior manager in quality engineering at Salesforce in Indianapolis, Indiana. So this afternoon, I am here to talk to you and share some thoughts and just my experiences with using feedback. So let's get started. Now, do either one of these quotes up here sound like something you've heard or something you would have seen or maybe even said yourself? So, and I'm going to try to use my most bombastic voice, but I'm not too good with impersonations. But anyway, I'm a great tester. Everyone respects and admires the work I do. Or, as a manager, well, okay, I do say this all the time, but anyway. I'm a terrific manager. My team is great. They all love what they're doing. We work together as a really cohesive unit. Now, the big question is, if you've heard that phrase, or either one of those quotes used, what evidence or facts, if you're the one who's used it, what do you use? Well, I mean, what are the evidence, what are the facts that you've used to support that claim? And if your answer, if the only thing you're saying is, well, my intuition, my gut tells me that, yeah, that's right. Well, guess what? And you're practicing what's called truthiness, essentially stating what you wish to believe to be true rather than the facts. Now, as a tester or a manager of testers, facts and information really should outweigh truthiness. And I believe that feedback can reduce truthiness, yours and that of those you work with. So, as far as I'm concerned, feedback is really a very powerful and essential tool. It can help you determine, what's real for you and for your team. Now, truthiness. Let's spend a couple minutes and go a little bit deeper into it. But essentially, it's just a way to characterize or just the style in which somebody is trying to make a statement or claim, and making an assertion that what they're saying is the truth, or stating it as if it's so truthful or factual, when really all they're going on is their intuition, their gut, or just, they're flat out what they wish to be true. So it's this whole notion of the idea that your passion and your emotion and your own certainty can outweigh the information, or what you feel in your gut isn't more important than the actual information. So I know a term I've used, or usually and sarcastically, is, don't let the facts confuse the issue. So now, in terms of relating to, truthiness and testing, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, really it has no place in the testing that we do. So, testing is really about, seeking information, seeking facts, and using those facts to support the observations that we make. Now, to be honest, while it shouldn't exist, the truth is, it probably, I'm sure, I know I've encountered it a lot, and I'm sure you probably have too. This is a favorite example of mine, the one, it's like, I believe that, this bug has been fixed, and it's fixed with, some random change. So just go ahead and retest that one. So that, to me, that definitely has a ring of truthiness to it. So, and that's one of those, I also call it a defect resolution based on hope, as opposed to facts. Now, when it comes to, as a manager, and, how does it relate to truthiness, and what does it do with your leadership? Sometimes, everybody has some amount of truthiness that they have going for them. So, for example, as a manager, sure, I definitely have and should have a vision for my team, and maybe that vision starts with, what I wish to be and what I want to be true, but I can't let that be the end point. You can't stop there. You really do have to seek to have things that support that, or else you're going to risk your own credibility and the credibility of your team by only relying on what you wish to be true. Again, as a manager, I know I definitely encounter truthiness from outside my team. And usually that actually is in the form of feedback as well. A lot of times it's kind of put to the point or put to something as usually it's, or at least to me, it's usually only one person is maybe giving me some feedback about a particular project that someone on my team is working on, or the what they think or what their information that they have about somebody on my team. But my own personal heuristic about that is that if there's only one person saying something then until I know otherwise, I don't believe it to be so. Now, feedback is just any information we get that tells us about ourselves. In the broadest sense, it's just how we learn. It's how we use our experiences and the experiences of others that we work with to learn. I guess to help kind of show the parts of what I would call a feedback conversation, I tried to come up with this kind of simplified model of all the components that make up a feedback conversation. And well, actually, to tell you a side story, I was really, and again, this kind of goes back to my geeking or my electrical engineering days, and because I had envisioned, okay, I need to make it as a nice circuit diagram, because really, in effect, really a good feedback is kind of like an amplifier. I mean, it's a way to amplify and increase the effectiveness of those you work with, of your team. So, but then after I thought about it, it's like, well, that's a little bit too, maybe a little bit too clever for its own good. And, again, anybody in the audience who's not so inclined to really look at circuit schematics probably won't get a lot from it. So, but anyway, so really, when you think of a feedback conversation, I guess the two participants in it are the person that's giving the feedback and also the person that is receiving it, and probably the person that had asked for that feedback. Now, when we talk about feedback, there really are three types of feedback that I think of. Appreciation, and essentially that's just, giving somebody thanks or recognition for the work they're doing, or especially if, say, it's a specific project that they worked on, or just something that, they knocked out the park. Or just, again, showing gratitude for, the work somebody on your team is doing. So, and also, I think it's definitely a great way to show and to tell somebody specifically how you value the work that they're doing. So, the other type of feedback be characterized as evaluation. Essentially, you're letting people know where they stand. Kind of, ideally, at some level, it's kind of telling them, I hate to say how they rank, because that in and of itself is not necessarily something that you can do that easily and or that accurately. But again, I think it is important to be able to let folks know how they stand from the standpoint of, if nothing else, from your perspective as a manager, what you think that someone is or is not doing, and hopefully how you think they can change that, which then leads into coaching as far as another feedback type. And again, that's just in terms of saying, hey, this is how you can get better, or how you can do something different that hopefully will be better or have a better outcome than what you've gotten. So kind of going forward over the next few minutes, I want to use this model. One, just because to me it really does show that, in any kind of feedback conversation, there's a lot of stuff going on. It may be simply just that you think of it as just a talk between two people, but there's more than just two people there. Because the other thing, each person, each participant, they're basing either the feedback they're giving you or in terms of how they're going to process the feedback you're giving them on information. And that information can take the form of specific data. It can take the form of just their own observations or the information or observations they've overheard or gotten from other people. And the other thing is that information is going to be subject to their own personal filters. And when I think of filters, I also think of it as being, you can just say their personality or just how they approach things, just how, maybe their own biases around work styles, others that they work with, any number of things. So again, for the sake of the discussion, I just wanted to use the term filter in a general way. So, and the other thing is, in terms of when you're giving feedback, a lot of times, I know what I see is someone's asked me for feedback and I'm giving it to them, and I can almost instantly tell from the expression on their face that what they're hearing is not what they expected to hear. And so generally, you want to have some amount of trying to get some kind of confirmation of and to understand that are you aligned with the person that you're giving the feedback to in terms of, maybe they were expecting or they had wanted to get some kind of appreciation and you're giving them coaching, or vice versa. Or they're looking for evaluation and you're giving them coaching or appreciation. So before I get into some of my favorite heuristics that I use around giving feedback and seeking it and receiving it, let me give you a little bit of context around my own team that I work with. So currently it's composed of 18 testers. Actually the 14 are full-time employees, 4 are contractors. 7 of the 18 folks work outside of Indianapolis where I and the rest of the team are located. Within that, they comprise 3 time zones. And also, they are split amongst 10 different, what we call development squads. That's in terms of, a squad is usually composed of 2 to 3, maybe 4 to 6 developers, 1 to 2 testers, project manager, usually, ideally some sort of product owner or a business analyst. So, and then kind of the last point I want to make, and again, this is especially kind of my non-negotiable rule around feedback conversations is that they definitely should occur in one-to-one private meetings. For me personally, I think that you can tell somebody or tell anybody anything, in the right circumstance and at the right time and under the certain situations. But at least for me, I know I don't want to hear or don't want to be a part of giving somebody a difficult conversation especially around coaching or some kind of evaluation in a public forum, or even just in a room where there are other people that are going to be overhearing the conversation. So for me, it's just, that's just, and again, your own mileage might vary, but it definitely, you want to keep those one-to-one conversations truly one-to-one, especially early on in any kind of relationship you have with a coworker or manager, employee, whatever. So, because to me, in terms of to be able to have those uncomfortable conversations or uncomfortable moments, you do need to be able, I think, do it in a more safer space. So, my first heuristic is around, if you're going to tell somebody what you think, and they've asked you what you think, you should damn well make sure you've actually spent some time to think about it and give them something that is well thought out. So, and to be honest, I mean, I haven't always adhered to this, and it's bit me in the past, because a lot of times someone will ask you your opinion about some work they're doing, and if you don't, of course, ideally, yeah, you want to be able to give somebody a quick answer and get them on their way, but the truth is that you're not doing them a favor, and you're definitely not doing yourself a favor if you give them something that you haven't thought through, and then later it hits you. It's like, oh, wait a minute, there's something else I needed to tell them around how they could have done something better, and kind of really, second thought, it really, the work they did on a particular project could have been better, and because it wasn't as good as it could have been, these are the things, and these are the blowback we got from it. So, so then when you do go back to tell them that, one, they're usually going to be shocked, because it's like, well, wait a minute, you just told me, everything was okay. Now, where is this coming from? So then again, that's destroying your own credibility, and then again the relationship, and it's going to blow and mess up the relationship that you probably have already built with them. So again, you're going to be having to build that back up. So, the second one is shut up and listen. So, and I say this to me because I know I'm definitely good about verbally being quiet when somebody's giving me feedback, but it is a struggle to actually really listen and try to take in the information that you're getting. And I think because too often I think we, and I know I know I'm as guilty as anyone about it. I'm being quiet, but I may not be listening. I may just only be doing what the author Stephen Covey warns, is that most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. So instead of just listening and waiting for your chance to jump back in, actually kind of shut your mouth verbally, but also shut your mouth mentally, and hear what's being said to you, so that you can have something to reply to, or you understand what it is you need to reply to. Oops. This next one, it definitely ties into the last. So say you have done a great job. You've really listened intently and truly heard, or at least think you've heard, everything that's been said. But guess what? I'm not buying it. This is, what you're telling me is flat out wrong. Now that's probably, that's your first thought, but guess what? Instead of just coming right out with that, dive a little deeper. Try to say, hey, give me some more information about that. Again, there's a chance that you might be wrong. There is that chance. So to me, that's kind of where I think I use it as a chance to, one, try to maybe ask some more questions around, what they're basing that feedback upon. Is it something around, or maybe, I don't know, maybe they're having a bad day and really, maybe they're kind of just venting at me. I don't know, So, or is it just that there's some information that they just don't have that I have, and then we get a chance to, we can have a conversation about that and better understand what else is missing. Is there something else that, again, when people are using information, that information they're using to give you feedback is often incomplete, and it may not be factual. So And again, their filters that they're using, what they're filtering with, or, it can be anybody's guess. So instead of leaving it to guess, it's best to ask them. So I think especially if you're getting coaching advice, say you're getting coaching advice, the kind of clarifying questions that I think are good to ask is to specifically ask, what do they mean by the coaching that they're giving you? And not just what they mean by it, but how would they expect you to implement it? And if it were them, how would they implement that advice? So, ask, is it something that, is it to help you grow? Is it to help you improve? Or is it, the feedback giver's way is just trying to, raise something important that, and maybe this is something that has been bugging them for some time, but they've yet to bring it to you, and now, for some reason, it's a big blow up. So, again, I think that's the benefit of just flat out stating it's wrong. Instead of flat out stating it's wrong, is just to go ahead and say, seek additional information, ask those clarifying questions. So, if it's some kind of evaluation, I think clarify around what those consequences are relative to the evaluation and relative to the expectations that are being set, or maybe that there is, you're giving feedback that they're not being met. So, and seek it, I guess, looking forward. Seek it from a forward-looking information. Asking, for example, what does this mean for me? I'm sorry, I just skipped slide, so you can tell I'm very inexperienced with PowerPoint here. But asking, what's going to happen next, and what's expected, and then also, given where I stand, what should we do now? So, my fourth heuristic is leave the answer out of your question. So, I think this one I try to use and try to be reminded of when I'm asking people for feedback, because oftentimes, and I think especially as a manager, you sometimes you have that that dynamic where if you put too much into what you're asking, I think you run the risk of the person just wanting to, and again, I think it depends on your relationship with them, but, maybe they're going to be hesitant to really tell you what you think or what they think, because if you really do frame the question and frame your solicitation for feedback, where you're pretty much kind of putting out maybe what you think is a way to go, well, you're going to run the risk of they're going to say, okay, that's good enough. So, yeah, that's a great idea. So, and then I think in that case, you run the risk of there could be some perspective that you totally had no idea about, and you're going to miss out on that. So, and also I think you're going to miss out on, by missing out on that, you're also going to, if not discourage, at least you're not giving that person the opportunity to really have more of an impact on your team. So really, because I think it ties into our, our confirmation bias. We usually tend to seek some amount of facts. We make up our mind about a decision we want to make and essentially have made it, and then we essentially are doing our research, which the research is really only looking for people and opinions and feedback that agrees with and supports that confirmation. So, the next one is you get what you give and what you ask for. So, to me, especially early on, I think you pretty much expect, when I guess when I was a tester, I pretty much expect, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get feedback at some point from, from my manager. That's because that's what they do. That's their job, of course. So, but I was personally very bad about, giving unsolicited feedback, unless it usually was something about, unless it was something I was really ticked off about or really thought, oh, this is a horrible idea, So, and again, I think that's, those are opportunities that I've missed. So I definitely would encourage anyone who, even if they aren't in a management role, to really be looking for opportunities to set that example and essentially kind of lead or influence, even if you're not quote unquote in a leadership position. And I think by giving people feedback, even especially giving maybe unsolicited feedback to your manager, I think is a great way to do that. Because again, managers, surprisingly, don't, they tend to. There's a lot of stuff going on that you don't see or don't see what's going on with them, and unfortunately, they don't see exactly and have all the same information, at least at the same time that you do. So I think there are those opportunities that you have that you can move them forward and indirectly move your team forward as well. So. The thing is, whether it's bitter or sweet, you should keep it separate. And by that I mean, when you get to you look at the different types of feedback, appreciation, coaching, evaluation, you usually need to, I would say usually, and most of us, and again, if we look at this model here, just in terms of, there's just a lot that can be going on in a conversation, and that's, say, if it's just one type of feedback you're given. So if you need to be, or if you think you need to give multiple types of feedback, do it over multiple conversations, because it's not, it shouldn't be one of these just, okay, a quick, drive by, boom, 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 you're going to, give everybody everything, give them everything that's on your mind about what they're doing or what they're not doing. And how great a job you think they're doing, in 5 minutes, and boom, be on your way. So, because generally, we can't process. I know I can't process all those different things at the same time and really hear it, really understand it. And chances are, if it's me getting that, if you come at me with multiple things, yeah, it's probably going to be a long and drawn out conversation, or I'm going to need to ask you, hey, give me some time to come back on this. So, I know my last heuristic is, are you giving somebody baggage or fuel? And this to me ties into the importance of making sure the feedback that you give people, you try to be as timely as you can about it, because ultimately it has a half-life. It's again, you want the feedback that you're given to drive people forward and to hopefully uplift them or encourage them to do and to get beyond where they currently are. So actually, I can tell you a story about my own example of this. A couple of weeks ago, I gave a dry run of this talk, and it was, to be quite honest, very rough. and it was to most of the quality engineering team at Salesforce Marketing Cloud. So needless to say, I know after it was over, I got all kinds of feedback. I mean, I got appreciation, serious evaluation, serious coaching, and to be honest, that was kind of just the conversation that I was having with myself those first 5 or 10 minutes after I was done with it. But no, seriously, after that, a lot of people did come up to me, and reach out to me with a lot of really good information and data that I was able to use and hopefully to incorporate it. So what you see today could have been way, way worse. so, so, let's. So yeah, please during open season remember that. As bad as it may seem, it could have been really, really worse. So, but anyway, so to me those are great examples of fuel. So on the baggage side, another related story, because about 2 hours before I was to give that talk, a couple guys on my team came up to me and were asking me about doing lunch, and I was saying, look, I'm really still scrambling to finish up my slides and just to do my dry run of my talk. And one of the guys said, oh yeah, that's right. And then one of the other guys said, what talk? He's like, what, really? It's like, are you filtering my email? I mean, are you really filtering my emails? I mean, because I don't know, but because it had been one of those things that for the past, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, I had been spending a lot of time, trying to put together that very rough draft. And, usually in most of the conversations I was having with my team, that usually came up as far as, hey, you probably see, chances are you wonder what I'm thinking about or what's in the back. If I have this look like I may not be 100% there or 100% engaged, bring me back, bring me back to your conversation, because I might be thinking about that. So anyway, so that to me was kind of an example of somebody kind of giving you baggage in terms of, because you would have thought that, okay, yeah, they would have known, and obviously they probably weren't planning to attend it, because if they didn't know about it, guess what? So, but also to be fair, I mean, I use that example just to tease the guy who's probably listening. Then again, maybe he might not be listening either this time too. So, but he shall remain nameless. So to be fair, he did have had some personal stuff going on. So of course I gave him a hard time about it, but I didn't hold it against him. So now developing the feedback habit. I think for most of us as testers, to me, and again, I know from my own experience, but the component or the part of feedback that I still, maybe now I don't quite struggle with it, but it's still not second nature, and it still takes a lot of work for me, is that of seeking and even receiving. I think, again, for me, seeking is still the one I really have to be more mindful about and really work to ask that of people. So especially, I think, even especially of my team individually, and also like my peers and other managers outside of the quality engineering organization. So if you're just starting out or you think you're just starting out with, the kind of feedback you're doing, or you think you can do more with it. So I definitely would just encourage you to, start small. Just seek out maybe at first the people, people that you have the best, or what you consider that you have the best working relationships with, and really then try to get into some regular and focused feedback conversations with them. And just definitely keep trying, because I know for me it didn't come easy, and actually, to tell you the truth, I know before I did this talk, proposed to do this talk, when I came up, I actually thought that, or considered myself, oh yeah, I think I'm pretty good with doing giving feedback. I think that's kind of one of my strong tools that I have as a manager. So, and once I really got beyond, giving the proposal and that was accepted, I said, well, let me really dig into this some more. And, again, as I really do try to spend more time going through, the references and really, seeking out more information. I guess that's it. I really probably over the past 6 months have read more and looked at more and just any kind of management-related periodical that comes up with, if you see an article on feedback, it's like, oh, okay, I find myself gravitated to that. So I would say, yeah, definitely, and I found that, there's still a lot that I feel I have to learn. I've learned a lot, and just in terms of I think these heuristics that I've put together, that they work for me. So I would definitely encourage you to look for and maybe take a look at these, but definitely make and look for the ones that will work best for you. So, because again, your context and how your organization is structured I'm sure is totally different than mine. So, if you're a manager and or even if you're not, but you're looking at it from the standpoint of, I want to use feedback to make my team stronger. Like I said earlier, it's going to be tough, because I would say, like anything, if your current team or your current team's culture really doesn't promote, people having honest conversations with one another, maybe as peers, maybe the testers within your team having really good conversations with one another. Hopefully, you and your manager are having those good conversations. But worst case, if that's not occurring, then it probably will be difficult at first. So again, I think you as an individual definitely try to start small at that, and to really try to develop that practice of regularly seeking out feedback from your teammates and your manager and even beyond your organization. So, and make it a part of your tool set in terms of what things, or what types of feedback you can give, how best to receive feedback, and how best to do those follow-on conversations. Because I think that to me is another piece of it, is that think of it as it's an ongoing relationship. Because essentially you're using the feedback to build that relationship. So within that relationship, it's going to be ongoing. So you should have and should expect to need to have multiple conversations with one another. So a couple of references. The book by Doug Stone and Sheila Heen, Thanks for the Feedback. To me, it's a pretty awesome book. Especially, I think it's really strong in the area of giving you details around, just how people take in feedback and kind of what triggers how they react to feedback. So definitely, I would encourage you, if you're really serious about getting better at getting feedback, especially asking for feedback and receiving it, to take a look at that book. So the other book, Fierce Conversations, I know that's something we use a lot. We've used a lot within the Salesforce Marketing Cloud for our manager training, and we actually have a course based upon that book. But within it, Fierce Conversations, it has some excellent templates that you can use for when you're trying to prepare feedback. So, because again, tying back to that, my earlier heuristic around making sure you think before you tell somebody what you think, those templates can really come in handy, especially when you do have to maybe have a very tough evaluation type feedback conversation with somebody. It's really, and I know for me, for personal experience, I've had to do it a few times. Having to do that preparation, going through ahead of time, really, it may feel, that first time, it really feels like, I don't want to say canned, but it just feels unreal. It just, this doesn't seem authentic. But once you've done it, I think definitely once you've done it, and especially if it is truly going to be a very difficult conversation, nothing to me that it warmed me up. Actually, I think the first time after I got through it the first time, because at least I think the conversation ended, or at least the first part of the conversation ended where there was probably still some disagreement, or there needed to be some additional follow-up conversations, but it wasn't. I think everybody, I definitely was able to state what I needed to state, but there was opportunity for the person I was giving the feedback to help me understand, why things had gotten to that point. And I think that, to be quite honest, at least from knowing my own personality, had I not done that, and I think had the conversation got to maybe the elevated state that it did, it probably would have ended much differently. So in terms of, it probably could have just been shouting, cursing, it wouldn't have gotten physical, but it would have gotten probably loud and ugly. So again, I think that that ties back to what I was saying earlier around to me, the importance of trying to prepare and trying to really be thoughtful about the feedback that you do give to people. So, and again, before we get into open season, excuse me, if as far as my email addresses, the slides, I hadn't posted them yet, but I did plan to put them up on. Once I do get them posted, I'll put that out on Twitter as far as where you can get a hold of them. So, because if you're like me, I don't like to take a lot of notes during these, because 99% of the people who give talks do it where they have their slides posted. So I will do the same. So that's, I know we're running a lot early, but.
Ooh, lots of questions, Jeff.
Uh-oh.
You're in trouble.
No, it's good. That's actually good. I think we have plenty of time.
That's good.
At least I hope we have plenty of time.
And then you can say thank you for your feedback, right?
Yes.
Where are we going first, Scott?
I would expect nothing else, right?
You have to turn it on at the bottom. Who's up first?
Right. I was just going to ask how often you do one-on-ones.
I usually, with the people that are local to Indianapolis, I say minimum. I have them scheduled for at least once every 2 weeks, and the folks that aren't on my team that work remotely, I definitely have it scheduled for every week. Because again, I think the advantage of the local folks is it's much easier for them to reach out to me, in between those one-on-ones, and a lot of times that is a lot what happens, because and it's, for the most part, I leave that up to the individual tester, because a lot of times it's the way I treat it. It's really their meeting. They get to, it's their agenda, so whatever's on their mind that we want to talk about. So.
Okay, and then as a follow-up to that, are they always on site, or do you sometimes take it, like maybe over lunch or something like that?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it just, again, it depends, because I actually, with a lot of the people that I work with locally, we just in the course of, we go to lunch often, so yeah. But generally, the one-on-one, I usually, unless somebody specifically says they want to, hey, let's do it over lunch, or just because of their schedule, we'll do it then. But to me, the advantage of that is, because that does, depending on what your office is like, or your office environment, it's easier to have those, conversations if you need to, that you want to make sure that nobody else is overhearing. Because I think the worst part about that is because too often people may overhear it, and they're probably maybe when they overhear it, it's kind of in the middle of it, so they totally don't have any context around it, and who knows what the heck they're gonna think. So.
A little bit of I guess, a follow-up to the previous questioner. I think I understand that all of your team, even though they're remote, are all in the U.S.
No, actually, one of the guys is in Sydney, Australia, so he's like 16 hours ahead of me. So.
Great. So that follows up to my next question
Okay.
of, how do you deal with feedback loops over long distance? What kind of technologies and tricks do you use to overcome that?
It's tough. I think I think you have to have a longer term view in terms of trying to develop that relationship over time. I think that to me, with him specifically, is I try to really make those because of the time difference. We have a standing Monday night one-on-one. So usually, I think because of the time, it's usually like 8:30. So it's scheduled for half an hour. And again, it just depends on what's going on. I mean, we sometimes talk for 15 minutes. We sometimes talk for an hour and a half. But I mean, that's just what's required. I think that's just what's required and at times it's been required to build that relationship and actually, like you said, work through the differences. Definitely, we use email a ton. So just in terms of, because I think he really, compared to other people on the team, really, I won't say over-communicates, but maybe other people might think he's over-communicating in terms of giving me email updates of what's going on. He probably CCs me on almost anything he sends out. At first I found it like, oh my God, but I think for him, I think it's worked for us. Because again, it's kind of, I think he feels like he's better keeping me aware of what he's doing. And also, I think it probably has helped to give me a better understanding of maybe some of the things he maybe gets pulled into that I probably wouldn't have known about. So.
D48.
48? All right.
So, have you ever had the experience as a manager where you really had to pull feedback out of a tester that you're working with? Like somebody just either skipped the one-on-ones, or they didn't want to attend them, or they just a lot of avoidance, or did
Yeah, I think part of that is you got to be persistent, and because usually what I tell people is, and it's probably more so the folks that are local. If you skip one, that doesn't bother me, because I have to do it just because a lot of times your schedule, something comes up at the last minute that you got pulled into, so you end up having to cancel it and postpone, or you can't postpone it because it's not a good time for them. So for me, if we get to the point of where we haven't met one-on-one in a month, I'm gonna come looking. I'm gonna seek them out. So I mean, it's just I just think that's important because you do want to make sure. I mean, and I probably would have checked in just to see, hey, how is everything? Are you okay? And that's it. To me, that's the one advantage of having people when people are local and on site. It's much easier to just kind of in passing catch up with them and just check in on how they're doing. So, but yeah, I definitely would say that would definitely be a warning sign, or just again, it may be something just to seek out to see if maybe there's something going on outside of work that is taking a lot of their focus. So you definitely want to know that and see if there's something you can do to help with that. So.
Hi, thanks for your talk.
Hi.
It brought up a lot of questions for me. One of them is about, you use the word safety, and I appreciate that, privacy is an important thing for that on one-on-ones, that kind of thing. But I was also thinking that it'd be interesting to have a conversation about how to make even more casual feedback, like have a culture where feedback is safe. where it doesn't have to be one-on-one. It is multi-directional, and I've had experiences where there's more of that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering about that balance and what you think about how to balance having private conversations and also just being able to say, hey, dude, man, we need more coverage next time.
Yeah.
And have everybody expect.
I think that I definitely think that is possible if you've probably have built up, if there's some trust built up between the team, amongst the team, that because usually I think probably in that situation, you're not the only one who knows. If you're the manager, you and the other person probably aren't the only one that knows that. Hey, yeah, there's that person, the person that you were going to be giving one-on-one feedback to could have done something better or maybe needed some help with something and didn't ask for it, for example. So yeah, I think it probably does depend on the team. If it really truly is a close-knit team that's been working together for a while, yeah, I think you probably could kind of break the bound. Because again, like I said, that's my rule around the one-on-one conversation. And to be fair, I actually did forget. I must have missed the note in my slide. But the one area where I do break that rule and like to see it broken is when it comes to appreciation feedback, because I think that definitely you should be, and I think we should, especially as managers, be more public about letting folks know when they've done something that you think goes beyond, especially when it goes kind of beyond just doing their job. But even sometimes just doing your job is, sometimes we sometimes have those kind of tough releases where just getting through it is you really do need to let folks know and be public about letting folks know that you appreciated all the work that they had to do to get to that. So, and especially, well, I guess the other thing that really makes I don't know about anybody else, but really makes my day as a manager is when I get some email from someone, especially they may be someone who's not even within my team that reports to me, or it may be even a dev manager, about somebody on my team that say, hey, yeah, so-and-so, they did this specific thing and really, helped out. And also, or something along the lines of, hey, this person really helped me come up to speed on something, and I definitely just really am really, I know they went out of their way, and I kept asking them a lot of questions. So, so to me, those are the kinds of things that definitely I think people should be public about. So, because I think it just shows that that people appreciate the work you do, and also I think the other important part of that is you do want to encourage that and show that it's valued. So and hopefully other people know that when they're asked to do things that, especially if it's maybe someone who doesn't necessarily work with them on a day in day out basis, that person is going to come up and that you're going to, it's of your value to help them out too. So. Now, did that answer your question? I did. I think I kind of rambled on there, so I just want to make sure. So.
Yeah, no, I think it did answer your question, but I guess I still, I guess I disagree with you a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And so because I think there's real value in having conversations about how things can be done better.
Yeah.
In a way that the group can self-correct,
yeah.
right? The group can correct, and so even like in the context of retrospectives or that kind of thing. So yeah, I guess I'm just advocating for there being a place for the safety because of privacy, and also that there's a place for safety because the team knows it's okay to have all kinds of feedback out there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think. To be fair, I don't think we probably don't agree that much because I think there are, like you said, especially when you're seeking improvements, those are the kinds of things that I think it is good to get team input. In fact, in that book, Fierce Conversations, there's what they use. They call it a Beachball model, and to me, it's great when you have those teams, especially if you have, like in your case, you mentioned perhaps you have a tester on your team who never speaks up, especially maybe in group meetings around what's going on or what they think. To me, that model is an excellent way to really kind of pull out everybody's opinions, and it's something that's done as a group in a public forum. So yeah, and I definitely that's something I encourage. So
119.
All right, here we go.
Hi.
Hi.
So I am not a manager, but we have like mentoring between testers. And sometimes it's hard to give a co-tester negative feedback. Or even if you do give them negative feedback, sometimes they don't, it's not taken very well.
Yeah.
And it affects me if they're not taking the feedback that I give them because it affects my work as well. I was just wondering, how would you deal with that kind of dynamic? I guess with a manager, you have that authority.
Well, and honestly, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up. Because even honestly, even as a manager, maybe it's thought or implied or people consider it, but if you use that or you think that's a given in terms of you having that kind of authority to give people negative feedback and expect that it'll be taken at face value, I think you'll be rudely disappointed. So at least that's my experience. But I guess I would recommend that. And first, I think that's the part about it's probably good to really prepare and think through ahead of time the kind of feedback you're going to give, and make it specific, and just try to make sure that it's not personal, or as much as you can make it focus on the facts and the information, and what what in terms of what you need as an outcome, or maybe what you need differently, and as much as you again try to do that ahead of time, and still it may not be it may not be received that well, but I think if it's not received that well, then use that opportunity, because again, if somebody if they think it's wrong and they're just ready to say it's wrong and they don't want to talk to you anymore about it, don't let them off the hook. Really try to engage them and seek out why they think it's wrong, or how who knows, maybe they do have a perspective that you aren't aware of, so do try to seek that out of them. So
Jeff, on this thread, I would like to ask, if you're in a peer-to-peer situation providing feedback and you've tried several times and you don't feel like you're getting results, at what point would you as a manager, if I'm having that problem, when do you want me to come to you and explain that I'm having problems and seek your intervention and help in the situation?
I'd say if you feel, as soon as you feel like you have tried to, like I say, one-on-one with your peer, and try to work through an issue and it's not worked through, yeah, definitely make me the third person to know. So and honestly, yeah, I've had that conversation with people on my team before to say, I definitely do believe you should seek out and seek having that conversation with your peer first before you pull me into it, because I don't like that, because I don't think that's fair to the other person, because more than likely if I do, and again I'm saying this on experience, when I've asked or followed up on that, it then looks like I'm somehow taking sides. And again, that wasn't my intent. And so going forward, and that's what I do is it's like, look, if you have, if you're definitely, at least within my team, if you're having an issue with somebody on the team, you two should talk it out first and try to work through that. And if you can't, that's what I'm here for. Yeah, then the three of us will try to work through it.
So it's a heuristic that you didn't mention, but I'll share with you that when you're doing peer-to-peer, and some of us have tried to coach folks to do peer-to-peer feedback. Those of you who have taken the BBST course know what I'm referring to. But one of the things that you have to do is set the stage for feedback, right? You kind of have to ask permission if it's a peer, right? And some ways you can do that are directly, hey, are you interested in some feedback on that? And another way to do it is kind of subtly around the corner by saying, I see you're doing this. I've never seen that before, or I'm confused about, could you tell me more about, I do it this way. It seems like that might be easier, right? Sometimes you got to play that little game because, it's so hard unless you know somebody very well to just immediately know whether they're just going to be happy to have information or whether they're going to see it as, you're trying to trump me, or like, you think I'm not doing a good job, right? You don't know what's going on in their head until you build a relationship. So I found that those two methods tend to let you know how open that door is before you stick your foot in it and get it slammed, you know what I mean? The stack is clear at the moment, which is why Dee and I kind of felt free to jump in like that.
Actually, can I jump back in on that?
Of course
quick?
you can.
You can always jump back in.
Okay. I think Scott touched on it, but I just want to make sure that have you solicited feedback from this peer reviewers yet? So I'd start out with that, because to me, because again, I think that's a great way to set the stage and set the environment for feedback within the group if it doesn't exist now. So that, I guess that's what I would encourage you to also do, is like kind of lead by example in terms of asking for that, maybe asking for the kind of feedback that you would like to give to him in terms of maybe if it's and again, I don't want you to give me the details because that's not appropriate either. But yeah, try framing it try starting from the standpoint of you seeking feedback from him or her, and see where that takes you, and then maybe that does open the door for you to be able to give feedback, and that it gets accepted as that it's meant with your intent, and your intent is just to improve the relationship and improve the team dynamic. So
yeah, along those lines, there was the one presentation I was in yesterday was delivering difficult messages. There's always a matter of you have to sort of know your audience, try and understand who you're delivering the message to so you know how to frame it. But there are situations, and I'm assuming it's a manager's nightmare, it's also a team member's nightmare, where you have people where no matter how mild the criticism, or even if it's not a criticism, it's just sort of a helpful suggestion, they just really take it as a personal attack. Right now, although on the opposite end of the spectrum, the team I'm a member of right now, we just ride each other constantly, and it's like, who gets to be dunce of the day?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because unfortunately, yeah, I have had team members that, like you said, it's literally any kind of almost if it's not adoration, not just appreciation, but almost adoration, it's taken as very, it's almost taken as a personal insult. So it's not easy, but again, I think that's where it ties into. You just have to be focus on the facts, and ideally there's specific behaviors or specific information that you're giving them. So at least it's not if they do try to take it as somehow a personal insult, you can show them that it's not totally about them as a person. It's about the specific instance and how it could have been better. So.
Anyone else?
All right, great.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. I just had a question. It's actually sort of about your specific context, but it's something I've wondered about, and is like I'm a tester that's embedded on a development team, and I don't report to like a testing manager. My reporting structure matches the group I'm in. But it seems like a tough position to be in, to be you, and not be working with them as directly, right? And so like.
It is tough being me.
But I mean, so I think of.
No, I know.
You're getting. It seems like you got to get a lot of indirect information. Is that true? And how do you verify that how do you support? How do you verify that the information you have is valid in your conversation with someone? I mean, is that just part of it? Do you always think you know?
No.
The answer? Okay,
no,
yeah.
Absolutely. Scott, Jeremy, they can easily chime in saying that I have no idea at times. So, but I think the way we're structured in terms of I think it's a matrix of a kind of a functional matrix type of organization where as quality engineering managers, our testers report to us, but they're embedded on these squads, and it's to me the difficult part of that is I do have to have some trust in my team that they're giving me information, the right information, and being honest about what's going on or what's not going on. But also I do need to try to where I can seek out additional information beyond that. So to me what I think is the other challenge of that is I think it's tough on the testers too, or and again I think that depends on their personality. It's tough because I'm probably not in their face on a day in day out basis, but probably the dev manager that's on the squad they're embedded with is. So it's very easy to feel like you have to do or listen to what that squad leader is telling you to do around your testing. And so I think that's the other piece that I think is my role and my responsibility to be there to back up and to encourage and really push the testers that to be the tester. Because to me, as a tester, that's your job is to figure out and to make the choices around the testing that gets done. I mean, you get inputs from the rest of your team, but that's your responsibility. So when you need help with that, sure, seek it out from other coworkers, other testers outside your squad, but I think that helps. Personally, I actually prefer that as far as how we're structured, because I really wouldn't like to have. I know me personally, when I was a tester, and I've worked in where I reported to dev managers. I think it's just the nature of the differences of, it's just that, and again, it depends upon the culture that you're in but I just think it can be a tougher dynamic as a tester to really do your job and have to report to a dev manager. So I empathize for you, to be quite honest.
Anything else, guys?
Nope, I think we're empty.
All right.
Going once, going twice.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
All righty. Thanks, everybody.